What's up, everybody? Steven here for Off the Shelf Movie Night to talk to you about physical media, about Blu-rays and 4Ks and DVDs, the way we like to own our movies and TV shows and documentaries and concert videos, all the things that we love. If you like that kind of stuff and you haven't already subscribed, please do so. A like and a share is also very much appreciated, but mostly subscribe. Hit me in the comments and let's talk about all of this great stuff. I'm doing something a little different today. If you like this, let me know also in the comments and I'll do more of these. But I recently went to the theater and saw A Quiet Place Part 2. So I wanted to share my spoiler-free thoughts, feelings about that film. So A Quiet Place Part 2, again directed by John Krasinski. This time, though, exclusively written by him. He did have a writing partner on the first one. This one he wrote all on his own. It's the same cast, same everything. The movie actually picks up exactly where the first Quiet Place left off. So if you haven't seen the first Quiet Place, there may be some mild spoilers here for you. You may want to watch that before watching any further here. You definitely want to watch it before watching the sequel, because they are two bookends on the same shelf. The sequel literally picks up directly at the end of the first film. It's a little weird too, because I'm watching it in the theater and I'm thinking, man, these kids haven't changed, you know? And I realize that the movie was made, and was supposed to release over a year ago. So maybe, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago this was filmed. So of course they haven't changed, So anyway, at the end of the first film, spoilers. Remember I said spoilers. The father had died. The family, through the daughter who is deaf, through the use of her hearing aid, had found a way to fight the aliens. But basically their home had been destroyed in the battle. So they had to move on. And that is how the movie ended. The sequel, Quiet Place Part 2, picks up where that one left off. We do get something extra in this one, and an aspect of that has been shared in trailers. So technically, if I were to talk about it, it wouldn't necessarily be 100% a spoiler. But, just to be safe, I'm not going to talk about it. It's just there's something cool, something extra in this film that we didn't get in the first film. The first film did have a couple of plot, logic holes in it, but it didn't matter to me because it was so well executed outside of those logic holes. The acting was spot on. The sound mix in particular was incredible. Cinematography was good. Directing was good. It was a solid horror sci-fi film. Outside of what the little plogic, is that a word? Did I just make up a word? Plot logic hole that was there. If that bothered you, if that ruined the first film for you, I don't think I would see the second film. Because the second film is literally in every shape and form a continuation of the first film. Everything that was great in the first film is also great in the second film. The flaws that you may have seen in the first film, also in the second film. So there is a little plot logic hole issue in this second film too. But on top of that, you also get Emily Blunt again, who just kills it in this movie. She's so good. Her emotions, her passion for her family, and her determination, all of that stuff is so powerfully executed in this movie. This type of film is really sort of a gift to actors. And I say that because so much of it is done by body language and by facial expression and by actions, because they have to be quiet. The cast, the characters have to be quiet in order to hide from the alien monsters. So it can't be, a 2-minute long piece of exposition. That's not allowed in this universe because that would get you killed. So they have to deliver the important beats of the film through other means. And that brings me to Millicent Simmons, the daughter in this film. In the first film, she was really good. And in my mind, as great as Emily Blunt was, as great as John Krasinski was, she stole the film. And it wasn't because... I think it was because Krasinski as a director had such confidence in her as an actor. A lot of the movie was pivotal on her performance, and she did a really great job. And what was her reward for that? Getting a much larger part and a much bigger influence in the second film. And she owns it once again. This is her movie, to me, watching it. She is fantastic. Her facial expressions and her body language and her means of delivering the story are outstanding. Outstanding. Everybody in here is good, but her and Emily Blunt, the two of them own this movie, and they make it a treat to watch. For fans of film, this was shot on 35mm film. So let me talk about the theatrical experience real quick, because I can talk about that and not be spoilery to the movie. This is a movie that begs to be seen in the theater. And after seeing it in the theater myself, I can tell you, now I understand why it got put off, it didn't get dropped to streaming, because this is a movie that deserves a theatrical run. It isn't a love letter to film the way Tenet was, but it was shot on 35mm film, and you can tell. It is a beautiful film, not a movie, which a movie can be film or shot on video or whatever. This is a film, shot on film. It's cinematic. The thing that's incredible about it, though, is, a lot of times when you think of film in the traditional sense, something shot on 35 or on, whatever, you think of epic vistas and that kind of thing. But this thing is very specifically condensed and small feeling. There's this sort of dystopian thing going on in this universe. It's like a post-apocalyptic thing, and you see it, but you see it in the background. It's not the focus of the film. You see it in bokeh, shallow depth of field, out of focus in the background. You'll see a town or buildings or whatever that's been destroyed in the battle between the aliens and the humans. But the focus is on these characters. It's a small story. The first film was a very small story, focused on a few characters. So is the second film. It continues that sort of motif. And I welcome it. So it was beautiful to look at. 35mm film. It was a digital projection, but it still had the 35mm look. Sound mix again here. The First Quiet Place was probably the best sound mix of any film released that year. This one may very well be the same. It doesn't do anything new. It takes the sound mix tools developed for the first film and uses them again in the second film. One of my favorite things is when people whisper. Typically in film, when people whisper, it's raised to a level that you can hear, but we are understanding it as they're whispering. But not in this film. In this film, they actually whisper, and it is kept to the appropriate level of their delivery to where you can barely hear it, but you're given subtitles. I love that. It grounds the world, it grounds the experience. If you're leaning forward, trying to hear what they're saying, and reading the subtitles, then you are in that space with them. So when there is a noise of some kind, it matters, it has impact, and it's part of the story. Love it. I guess the biggest negative that I can say about this film is that there's no possible way, I think, this film could ever be better than the first. The first was groundbreaking in its type of story, in its storytelling style, all of that stuff. So if this one did what it needed to do, which was continue that path and do it well, it could only ever be as good. Could never be better, because a lot of the tools that we were exposed to in the first film were a surprise. Obviously, they weren't going to be in this film. So what it really had to do was be as good as the first film to be a success, and it is. The first film for me was 8.5 out of 10. So is this one. Equal in every way. It's like you watch these two together and it's one continuous 3-hour film. And I can't wait to do just that. Best Buy already has a pre-order up for the 4K Blu-ray. They don't have a release date, but they do have it. I think they have it at $29.99. That price will adjust probably. but you can go ahead and pre-order it and reserve a copy. Looks like there's going to be, obviously an exclusive steelbook and all that. So anyway, that's my review. The scares are great. They're effective. I jumped. Nathan, who has been on the show a couple of times, he was on the show when we went to see Tenet back during pandemic. He jumped. It was scary. The action was great, and the characterizations were, again, phenomenal. Yes, without being spoilery, there's a minor plot hole that might bother you. Didn't bother me because everything else was like perfection, pure perfection. Act 1 of this film is stunning. Beautifully edited, beautifully shot. There's some digital things that happen that, if you've got a keen eye for it, that will probably maybe bother you. But the real things that are done are beautiful. 8.5 out of 10. Great movie. If you're vaccinated, go to the theater and see it, please. The experience will be so much better because I have a nice theater space. You've seen it here on the channel. Seeing it in the theater, real theater, on that screen with that level of sound is unmatched. So if you're vaccinated, get out there and go see it. 8.5 out of 10. Quiet Place 2. Loved it. Until next we meet, pull something cool off the shelf, share it with your friends and family, and remind them why physical media is the best way to watch films and TV. Let me know if you want more cinema reviews. I'll see you on the next one.